Good morning, and welcome to the first step, the morning show where I'm allowed to teach what I would learn and let go of responsibility and control for the day. Maybe gain a little bit of trust. So again, like most days, I was up early, and something came to mind this morning when I awoke, and it was something I did with my journal, of course. And it was this idea of the top 40. It was mentioned the other day, and I love that analogy of the top 40, and it refers to the thoughts that recur in my head. If any of you have ever listened to those radio stations that play the top 40, they play the same songs over and over on the radio, and then you end up singing them over and over. Then you go to work and the same people are singing it. It's a lot like the Lego movie, where everyone's walking around singing, "Everything is awesome," when in fact it's not, but they're convinced because they're sleeping that everything is awesome. And I used to do the same thing, sing those songs over and over, not knowing that it was going on inside my mind as well, these same top 40 thoughts, these ones that are recurring, that make up what I think is my identity. They recur. So this morning, as I invited in spirit, that I do each morning, I took some time to do that practice I talked about last week, this thing of here I am. And with that, I started writing all these thoughts that were in my top 40, the ones that recur. And it was that same thing like I was talking about last week, like exposing to my journal, to JC, to Spirit, to God, what I think I am, so this here I am was like, so I did these thoughts, and it was like, they can look like anything from, you're too fat, which isn't one that I get I should be working out. That one recurs in my mind quite often, like I'm not in shape, or, obviously I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough. Or I exposed one the other day I got in touch with, which was, you should know better. And it's like, I didn't realize that was literally underneath the surface all the time, like right there, like you should know better. And it doesn't show up like you should know better. It shows up, or it doesn't show up as I should know better. It shows up as you should know better. And it happened the other day where someone locked a door and this, you should know better came up. And I was able to get in touch with that thought that's actually there all the time, like you should know better. And for someone who's trying to train his mind to an I don't know mind, to have an underlying thought that is you should know better, doesn't work. It's like continually keeping me in this striving for knowing what I'm seeing. And it was funny. I was watching Jason's show from the studio here yesterday, and if you watched it, you can actually go back and watch it at SpiriTV. There's a little elevator under Wake Up with Jason that shows his previous episodes, and yesterday's was with this savant that, he was an autistic savant that when he was born without sight. And what happened was because he had no sight, and this apparently happens with a lot of people that are born without sight, they focus their mind energy into another perception or a sense, and he had perfect pitch. And a lot of people that lose sight at birth have that perfect pitch, because then I thought, I'm like, oh my God, look how much mind energy actually goes into my perception and figuring out everything I see. So I had the prayer of, let me take that energy away of trying to figure out everything, watching my thoughts, of judging and categorizing everything that falls into my line of sight. Take that and return that mind energy into the focus of asking, of asking in the moment. And I can do the same thing with these top 40. The thoughts that I'm not seeing, but they're coming into my mind. And so I wrote a lot of those down, and, it was obvious to me that what these thoughts are actually doing is they're just trying to convince me that there's something happening external to me. It's trying to convince me that there's a cause outside of myself, which all the practices that I do in the morning are just trying to reverse that, so that I can remember that there is no cause outside of me. The world is not causative. I am actually the effect of God, and God is the cause. But when I try to put that out in the world, that's what ends up causing the turmoil in my mind. And so in these instances that I, write these down or So what is this practically? This is the mind watching. I can see each time this thought is served up, and it's funny, I had this little idea of like, a thought will generate it, like something will come into my mind. Like I was talking with Frank yesterday, and you know, we have a couple of similar top 40s coming from our background. So he was sharing that it was possible that he would be alone for Christmas this year. He's in Zurich, and when he had the thought, he was like, oh, I'm a loser, you know, and those thoughts, as soon as something, you know, in the physical world shows up, it causes like the ego's up there like, oh, opportunity to play the top 40, and like throws those thoughts in, and we bite onto them, and you know, and then that's not the case. You know, he's actually going to go back to Mallorca, where we have a new community house being set up, and David's flying over, and Lisa will be there, and it's like, put in those moments, we can buy those thoughts, and it just steals our peace. You know, so that's the same thing that, you know, I can choose again. That's all I'm doing in this morning practice, is reminding myself, you know, okay, I can choose again when that thought appears. My goal is to withdraw investment in the ego, you know, and its belief system. So when I recognize it, I can actually choose again, and I can choose spirit and ask for that reinterpretation, which is all we're doing. So the other section that I wanted to go into today was the responsibility for sight, which is, that's the whole deal with the responsibility of sight. When I first got into 12-step recovery and had an experience, it was the realization, the recognition that I'm doing it to myself, you know, that everything that seems to happen to me, it's coming from me. So in the morning, I take these sections, as I've talked about earlier. My three go-tos are setting the goal, responsibility for sight, and rules for decision. And so this morning I went into this responsibility for sight, and I wanted to read a couple of the paragraphs, because this is all I do, is I anchor these things in my mind in the morning, so that these become my new top 40. These become the things that are repeating in my mind throughout the day, so I can take responsibility for what I thought was outside, and I can turn it back to my mind, and I can be at a state of peace. I can stay above that decision point, the one of deciding whether I believe in those songs that are playing over and over in my mind, or I can tune in. You know, when I invite in spirit, I can retune the radio to another station for maybe some softer music. So these, I'll just read a couple of paragraphs and then a few lines here, but it is impossible the Son of God be merely driven by events outside him. It is impossible that happenings that come to him were not his choice. His power of decision is the determiner of every situation in which he seems to find himself by chance or accident. No accident nor chance is possible within the universe as God created it, outside of which is nothing. Suffer, and you have decided that sin was your goal, that judgment was my goal. Be happy, and I have given the power of decision to him who would decide for God from me. It's like, you know, in the third step in recovery, it is the decision. You know, it's two recognitions of the mind, that I'm powerless. I can't, he can. You know, I'll let go and think he can restore me to sanity. And then I think I'll let him. I'll turn this decision maker over. And this is all I do in each section. The setting the goal, they're all very similar, like I say. And it's like, so in the morning, this is all I do. I go through this stuff and anchor it in my mind. So it's my new top 40. So this next paragraph is great. Begrudge not then this little offering. The little offering is the decision. You know, I can offer over the belief that I can make the decision. Withhold it, and I keep the world as I now see it. It's like, I actually am, even with watching that video yesterday about the guy with the sight and how much investment, you know, if it's true that I give everything I see the meaning it has, and the world is made in vengeance, like the world I see is a form of vengeance, then yes, I want to hand the world over. You know, there's a line in here somewhere where it says the world, handing it over, it would say, it costs you everything, the whole world you see. But I don't want this world. Like, this world was made based on a belief in separation. I want to see the sameness of everything. Give it away, and everything you see goes with it. This is acknowledge but that you have been mistaken, which it says earlier, and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. Never was so much given. David was talking about this on the online retreat this weekend. Never was so much given for so little. We think that it's a big price to pay because we've put so much investment in our meaning and everything. But if I can turn this over, it's that same thing of, as soon as I place meaning on anything, I've already given it the meaning, so I don't see a need to ask. So this is just another way of me saying in the moment, I can give that up. In the holy instant is the exchange effected and maintained. Here is the world you do not want, brought to the one you do. And here the one you do is given to you because you want it. And this is one of my lines here. Yet for this, the power of your wanting must first be recognized. So it all comes back to desire. What is it I want? And this is why I set the goal in every moment. It's never looking back. It's always what now? What do I want now? What do I want to come of this? The feelings I want to experience, all of it. The more I can keep that, I can come into an experience that I realize, oh, I am doing this to myself. How could I argue when I do this? You must first accept its strength and not its weakness. You must perceive that what is strong enough to make a world can let it go and can accept correction if it is willing to see that it was wrong. So this is all we're doing again, is coming back to the wrongness. Let's be wrong today. This is all I do in the morning as well. Be willing to be wrong all day. The world I see is but the idle witness that I was right. The witness is insane. Again, back into the 12 steps that I came from. The second step is believe the power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, because I am insane. I'm seeing an insane world based in competition and lack and all this. So this is huge. And then this. I trained it, my mind, in its testimony as it gave it back to you. And I listened and convinced myself that what I saw was true. This is the ingenious of the whole flip of the ego. I trained it in what I see. And then I believe what I see. And I get caught in it. Then he says, you did this to yourself. See only this, and you will see how circular the reasoning on which you're seeing rests. So once I can recognize this, and this is all we're doing in the journaling and the watching the thoughts, the top 40, and seeing it, and we can, oh my God, here it comes again. I don't have to choose. And that first time we make that decision not to go back on the merry-go-round, you know, the John Lennon, I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll. No longer riding on the merry-go-round. I just had to let it go. So, that's a nice song to keep in your top 40, actually, rather than some of the other codependent love songs. So there's another line in the next paragraph that I read this morning. And again, I read these over and over, and then certain lines just hang with me that day. And this one is, all that the ego is an idea that it is possible that things could happen to the Son of God without his will. How simple we make it. It makes it out to be so complex, all these things that are launched at us and these beliefs and everything. But if I can actually rest just in that one line, all it is the idea that things are happening to me. It's the victim, the belief that I'm a victim. If I can let go of that, this is what I shared last week, the 4-step process that I do. It takes away victimhood. You know, in 12 steps, we also say we put away the blame thrower. We're not blaming the world. We're taking responsibility for our mind. And if that's true, that my only responsibility is my state of mind, then this is the practice, the responsibility for sight. These are the things I can do to maintain that responsibility and keep it in my awareness so that I don't project. I don't actually see things outside of me as happening to me. They're actually happening for me. I don't have to do the things. I get to do things. Everything that comes towards me. Last night, this is a good example of a thought will be served up, and I was with Susanna. We actually have 2 beds in our room. We have a bigger bed and a small twin bed that's in there for when we have more people in the house. And so I sleep in the bed with her, and then sometimes for a while, and then I'll get up and I'll go over to my other bed, and because I have my journal there, I have all my excuses, but you know, my water, my journal, and all this, and there might be a fear of love there as well. I'm not sure, but there's you know, this desire to, I want my own space or sleep over here. So I do that often. So last night or 2 nights ago, I fell asleep in her bed, and then she woke me up at 12 o'clock, and she's like, hey, can you move over to your other bed? And the first thought was like, what the? Like, she's kicking me out like this abandonment. Like, I tried. And then instantly it was like, wait a minute, remember, this is actually what you want. You like to sleep over there. And my demeanor went, like, it wasn't even my demeanor because it was dark, but it was like in my mind, it was like, what the, oh yeah. And it, like, but I can do that with everything. Each time these thoughts are presented, it can be like, wait a minute, this is what I want. And if I can't get in touch with that, show me why it is I want this. Show me what's going on in my mind so that I can see, is there a lesson here I need to learn? And then there's another line down here. It says, you are not asked to make or do what lies beyond your understanding. We're literally, this is the we need do nothing as well. We're not asked to make or do what lies beyond our, all I am asked to do is let it in. Let's like that moment. All I'm allowed to, all I have to do is let in that thought that it is what I want, like it is for me, and not bite onto the song. All I am asked to do is let it in, only to stop my interference with what will happen of itself, simply to recognize again the presence of what you thought you gave away. And this is, I just mentioned, it was a recognition in 12 steps. The first step is the recognition of my powerlessness so that I can gain power. Choose the second to gain the first. It was like, and they say it here, you know, recognition. The holy instant, even enlightenment, it's not an instant of creation, but of recognition. For recognition comes of vision and suspended non-judgment, or suspended judgment. It's like, if I can take that moment, spirit waits and judges not. It's like, oh. And then I have the opportunity for this to come. Undoing is not my task, but it is up to me to welcome it or not. Faith and desire go hand in hand, for everyone believes in what he wants. So that brings me back again to setting the goal. What do I want to come of this? That's where I'm placing my faith. I'm not placing my faith in the situation to determine the outcome. I'm placing my faith in what it is I want. So again, this morning after I did that, I went back to my rules for decision and wrote what I wanted for today. I want to feel calm and peaceful. I want the words to come from me and flow without effort. I don't want to have doubts. I only want to have clarity. I want to experience that everything that happens to me is what I want. I want to experience higher vibration. I want to experience miracles. When I can keep these things in my mind, it actually works. It's like, this is what happens because it is what my faith is put in. And then everything that happens supports that. So yeah, this section I read over and over, and it's kind of cool how some of the paragraphs show up and are more predominant than they were in the past. And it was the same step with my step book, my 12 steps, and that I would read that book over and over, and then lines would pop out, and those are the lines that I read in the morning that become the songs, the top 40 for the day. So yeah, all I'm trying to do in this whole thing is the reverse of cause and effect, to take the cause away from the world. And when I start my mornings like this, I have a head start. I have my mind in a place where I can do that. And then sometimes I watch a video. I have a video that I'm going to show here, and this is a video that I keep on my desktop, and I have a little folder of certain ones that affected me pretty greatly when David spoke them, or a lot are from him because I have been with David for some time now. And this one was when I was in Australia, and we watched the movie The Butterfly Effect. And it's basically a cause and effect little clip. And I remember watching that movie, and the first time I had watched that movie, it really disturbed me. And it was before I was on this path, and I remember watching it. It was like, there was a fear that rose up, and I was like, and then when I watched it this time in Australia, it was amazing. I had a few experiences of scenes that in the past were, disturbing. It was like, oh, I was activated with this reinterpretation. I was like, oh my God. And then to watch that movie, and then after the movie, David talking, I was there filming him. So I was very close to him because it was a full room. We had a huge retreat, and I was very close. And at one point in this thing, I was just so locked on. I was like with him, and we were there. And when he turned and said one line, he was like looking right into my eyes, and it like spoke to me so deeply. I'm like, that I want to remember. I don't want to forget that. because that's all my mind is trying to do. And we actually do want to forget, but we want to forget to remember better what the Course tells us, and we want to remember these things. And this takes cause and effect to the next level. And all that I do in the morning, these practices, is to support so I can remember these things. So yeah, it's a little 4-minute clip, so we can play that and you guys can enjoy.
What if the cause doesn't come before the effect? This is the butterfly effect, but what I'm asking is, what if the cause doesn't come before the effect? What if they're together? What if cause and effect are together? What if, we'll say, they're simultaneous instead of one before the other? What if they're simultaneous? 2,000 years ago, Jesus spoke the words, "I and the Father are one." What if Christ was the effect and God was the cause? And cause and effect are actually together and have always been together. What if Christ could never leave heaven? What if the effect could never turn to the cause and say, "I'm out of here"? What if it was impossible to split the cause, the divine cause, and the divine effect? See, that's what this world is. It's the belief that Christ can leave the Father, that the Son can leave the Father, that the effect can leave the cause. And then as soon as you have that belief that ideas can leave their source, that the Christ idea can leave the mind of God, that means cause and effect are separate, and the ego then says, okay, and then we'll just project them out and we'll split them apart and we'll make up an alternate world of hypotheticals in which all of these hypotheticals, the cause comes before the effect. An unreal world of false causes and false effects that have no reality whatsoever. An entire fabricated cosmos, what seems to be billions and trillions of lifetimes, all generated from one error, the belief that the effect could leave the cause. Now you've heard things like, well, everything that you ever have done in this lifetime have brought you to this moment. You ever heard that one?
Yeah.
It's not true. It's not true. Everything you've ever done is the past. And the past can never bring you to this moment. What if none of us ever existed until right now? None of us existed until right now. Why? Because cause and effect are together. This is a simultaneous universe, and all the seeming lifetimes and past life regressions and reincarnation and everything we ever seem to do and everything we ever will do are hypotheticals. And what's a hypothetical? As if. That's a hypothetical. And this whole cosmos is a hypothetical. And every single memory in time and space that involves objects and persons and places and separate things are all hypothetical. This entire cosmos only seems to exist as if the separation occurred. But what if it didn't? What if it's actually impossible to separate from God? What if, as Jesus says, I am still as God created me.
You can see why I like that video so much. You know, David never holds back, and yeah, it's amazing. You know, I actually, today now, I'll watch that in the morning, and that even the little things where I love his mannerisms, it's not true. When that thought comes to me, I can remember even David in this circumstance. It's not true. I can choose again with those things. And when I watched this morning with you right now, it was these hypotheticals, and that's all it is, the cause and effect relationship, and practicing these things can bring us to away from that and out of it. And so today my prayer is actually to see where I'm acting as if I know something, you know, as if I can understand anything in my experience. And so that I can remember today, oh, wait, I'm acting as if I know anything. Because truly mind wandering is acting as if I know anything. Thinking I know something is a judgment, and that's my mind wandering when I'm not asking for the interpretation. So yeah, thanks for joining me this morning, and let's go into the day and try to identify where we're acting as if we know anything, where we're trying to see that the world is causative and return that to our mind and let go of that repeating top 40 and replace it with some words from the Spirit so that we can live the happy dream. So thanks for joining me again this morning, and we'll see you on Thursday. Have a great day.